All right, this video is about something called the alphabetic principle. And the alphabetic principle is pretty much a fancy word for the idea that the squiggly black lines that you see in a book or on the internet, anywhere that you're reading, the squiggly black lines, the letters, that those are assigned to certain sounds, and that when you put the sounds together, it conveys meaning. Okay? So that's the idea of the alphabetic principle. Very simple, very fancy sounding. People love to do that, don't they? So for a minute, we're going to compare this to something called a picture language. Think about hieroglyphs, okay? So if you wanted to communicate something in hieroglyphs, or just, a silly made-up language that we're going to make up right now, and you wanted to communicate, I saw a bird, instead of writing out the letters, you would write something like, you would draw a picture of a man, and then an eye, maybe, and then a bird, right? And that would communicate to pretty much anyone who saw it that there was a guy and he saw a bird, right? Well, English is not a picture language. It is way more symbolic than that. So think about the word cat, okay? I'll write it for you in case, you're still learning. The only reason that this word, try again. Life's all about second tries, right? C-A-T. The only reason that this means a four-legged furry animal that says meow meow is because we as a community of English speakers agree that it does, okay? Nothing about this word looks like a cat. So it's not a picture language, it's very highly symbolic. What's worse is that if you take the C out, right, it says at. That means something completely different. It has nothing to do with cats, right? And if you take the last one off, you just get C-A. That doesn't mean anything, right? Especially nothing to do with cats. So this level of symbology is really intense for kids, especially when they're little. They're very hands-on. They're very concrete thinkers. They don't do well with abstraction or symbology. So this is a big jump to go from knowing very basic things to understanding this symbolic code, right? So that's where a lot of kids get lost. And this is a very often forgotten principle of literacy instruction, because so many kids really do just pick up on this that it's hard to remember that there are those kids that don't. So if your children are really struggling to even understand what reading is, you might want to step back here and make sure they understand what the rules of the game are, essentially. So how do we teach this, right? Like I said before, kids are concrete thinkers. And what do kids love? Animals! This is the easiest lesson you'll ever do. So we very naturally teach our children that the cow says moo moo, right? The sheep says ba ba, the pig says oink oink, and on, right? So we have something that has a name, right? This is a cow, and it has a sound, moo moo, right? The name of this animal is sheep, and its sound is ba ba. The name of this animal is pig, and the sound is, you got it, oink oink, right? So all we have to do is transfer this to print. That's the first level of abstraction that we need to break down for them. So once they get this, which, that's very natural to teach a baby, I created this little document, and you don't have to use this one. You can make up your own, but essentially it's the same thing. You're going to have them read these animals, okay? So the rooster says cock-a-doodle-doo. The pig says oink oink. The dog says bark bark, right? So you're teaching them that things can have a name, and then they also have a sound. Got it? So then you go through this, and then at the end you can teach. These are letters. They have a name. This is A, and its sound is A. This is B. Its sound is B, and on and on. So it kind of bridges the conceptual gap that a lot of kids miss, and then they can just really take off from here once they have this foundation. If a child doesn't understand this, he really can't make much progress from here. So just do a double check that your children understand this, and if they get it, don't even spend any time here, but if they don't, you can walk them through this process, right? So the thing that I like to do when I'm reading with a child and trying to convey this principle is I will have a book, and I will ask them, point to the picture. And they'll point to the picture, and then I'll say, point to the story, or point to the words and see if they can show me that they know where the story comes from, and they'll point to the squiggly black lines. And if they don't get that, you can teach them these are the words, and when it's like a secret code, and that's how moms and dads figure out the story, and it tells you what the picture is about, and you can learn the secret code too. It's so simple, yet when you're working with a really young child, it's so important to just explicitly teach them these things. And once you get in the habit of doing that, just really narrating everything for them, they will pick up on things very naturally from here on out. But that is the alphabetic principle, and I hope that that made sense. You can comment with questions or email me. Anything you need, I'm here to help you.